y'all, I'm going to get my calculator out because it's time for Almost in Agreement. Since apparently math on math has been our status quo of late, might as well have the calculator ready. I'm sure we'll do some more math tonight, although it's not on my original agenda. We have a couple of in memoriams this week, which is a fucking bummer. But the world turns and people die, and it sucks. It's just the way it is. But election stuff came out this week. The Chodo Section 8 housing thing's a big old crazy mess. What else we got going on? Florida's underwater again. I don't know. Plenty of stuff. Tons of things to go through. And we'll talk about them. Almost Agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter. On YouTube, go to our website, almostagreement.com. All the episodes are available there, as well as contact us. Send us show ideas. Send us things to talk about that we're missing. I might know something about it. I might not. But we'll figure it out, and we'll talk about stuff. So, favorite podcast writer, while you're there, like, share, friend, follow. Tell the whole wide world about us, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And this is the show. Here we go. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'll be okay.
What's new and exciting?
Nothing new and exciting.
All right.
Now we
got to keep things consistent. So we had a national celebrity passing this week, which was a big fucking bummer. Bob Barker.
It was.
That son of a bitch got as close to $1 without going over.
Was he 99?
Died at 99.
Wow.
And so, if my pets weren't already spayed or neutered, I'd do it one more time. I'd respay them just for Bob.
Did you come up with that joke, or did you read it somewhere?
I read it on the air.
Okay. I was about to say you're clever, but I figured that was.
Why you got to?
Sorry.
God.
I mean, there was a little bit of me that hoped maybe you came up with it.
And then the local one, Cameron Brooks died this morning.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Which is just a bummer. Like there's, how do I word this? We've had conversations before about what happens in this case if an election's going on, and he definitely made it through the primary. Like he was a very close second to Lynn Fugate in that race, and was continuing on. Would be in a very would have been a real contender to take that seat.
Wasn't he the one that tried to withdraw?
No.
But it was, okay.
That was actually the other guy in that one that was the Worsham character. He was the one who had family who was sick, and that's why he was trying to withdraw.
Gotcha.
Cameron's diagnosis came out, at least he came public with it after the deadline and stuff. We were full campaign cycle when he came out and said it. But he also said it's pretty good and stuff like that. So that is a huge bummer. Our condolences to his husband, friends, family. It was a weirdism, like in the trying to be. I mean, there was enough time that I wasn't worried about saying it on this show because it would be plenty of time for me to figure out if it's true or not. But I guess I'd reached out to Cam at some point through Facebook because of the podcast or something like that, and he added me as a friend on Facebook. And when he officially got the campaign rolling back in January or whatever, he made like a chat room. It's called a Facebook community, but it's not like a page. It's like part of the Messenger app. And so like when it first started, it was very early. I wasn't even sure who he was at the point really. And so I thought it was kind of like a networking thing because like the title of it was like, something to introduce yourself. And so I was like, hey, my name's Seth. I have this podcast. I produce this other podcast. I own this business. If there's anything you need in that realm, hit me up.
Right.
Cause I thought it was kind of a networking thing. And then as it got rolling, I realized it was a campaign piece that he was working, which I have no issues with, other than this morning I woke up to like 15 messages on it of a bunch of people saying, I'm sorry, that sucks, condolences, stuff like that. And so I'm scrolling backwards to try to figure out what everybody's apologizing for. And somebody had posted or had messaged in there that he died this morning at 1 o'clock. Yeah. And so it's like 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't see this anywhere else. How do I like verify this before because that'd be a really shitty thing that somebody could do because it's a public group. It's not like it's moderated to any extent. And so it'd be a really cruddy thing that somebody could do. And so I text Jesse about it. And he's like, oh shit, really? I was like, well, he didn't say oh shit. He said, wow, right. I hadn't heard. And then as I was chatting back and forth with Jesse about it this morning, Matt Shears via Cameron Book's campaign official campaign spokesperson or campaign manager, they'd just finished preparing their public statement on it.
Gotcha.
To which then we got Chris Davis sends out a public statement. Says, "Screw you, Chris Davis, making fun of me on Facebook. Not cool, bro." Chris Davis puts out a public statement on it because a lot of people were immediately contacting his office, like, "What does this mean?"
Right.
Because the Worsham character didn't earn a spot in the general election.
Right.
There is no method now. There is like a week or two for a person to officially register as a write-in candidate, but for all intents and purposes, Lynn Fugate gets a walk moving forward. Which got me thinking about a couple things, and we've talked about it before.
Is that how he explained the rules of it or something? Or
yeah, because it's early enough. So, like, basically, as because Scott and Jesse and I were kind of chatting about it before, as we were getting started today, before we started taping their thing, and like, basically, like, there is a hard deadline for the actual printing of ballots. So there is a date,
right,
well before the election, that this is when they start actually printing ballots. And so had that date expired, then Cam Brooks would be on this upcoming ballot. But since it was so early, state law says that that name comes off the ballot, and there's no replacement process. And so that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Which got me thinking a little bit, and it's all like kind of circumstantial, like whatever, but it's like, I don't know. Now, with how close the primary was, they were within like 300 votes of each other.
Wow.
So it was a very tight primary, and Worsham, despite not, like, here's the crazy one. Worsham didn't campaign at all. Like, was actively not campaigning, was telling people he wasn't really running when asked about it. Got more votes than Constance did in her mayor race, who was actively campaigning for it. That's pretty rough. I'm sorry, Constance. That's rough. Don't know how else to. There's no way to sugarcoat that one. That's just rough. But anyway, it got me thinking about it.
Well, there was 4 or 5 candidates for mayor?
It's 4 for mayor.
Total? 4? Okay.
3 for this seat, too. This seat. 16. What did I say last season? 16.5 was going to be the number? Or 17. No, 17.2 was my guess last week, and the official was like 16.5. And it's going to be even less now since the mayor's race isn't coming back on. The mayor's race is over. And odds of my official election odds making says we're going to do about 14,000 for the general in November, unless something fucking crazy happens, but that would be very unlikely. So anyway, going back, like what would happen? I guess my complaint would be, what would happen? Let's say Cam did really, really well in the primary and took like 85% of the primary vote. And Lynn only got 15%. So it's very clear by at least the primary public that they don't want Lynn. Now, I'm not trying to imply any bad deals. I'm just saying, like, it's very clear that the public doesn't want Lynn in my scenario. Fictional story I'm trying to tell here. It's kind of shitty that the rules say you just take him off the ballot. Like part of me would say, like, well, you leave him on the ballot. Like, at least if there is enough protest vote that really doesn't want somebody who made it through the process, it should be able to be known, I think. And I don't know what the answer would be on how you, like, because if it was the other way, if it was the week after the election, the city council would appoint a replacement, an interim replacement until a special election can be held, and yada, yada, yada. Which, now I got to get Chris back on the show because, not that it applies here, but like all the rules for special elections, apparently it's very well defined. Like, how many days out from any upcoming election can it be? Right. It doesn't matter what type of election, as long as it's an election in the state of Tennessee, city, county, Farragut, whatever the fuck, township, whatever they're called, right. State or federal race, any official race that's happening, you can attach a special election to. It doesn't matter if they're related government bodies or not. But anyway, there's like rules on how many days before the early voting and before this and before that you're allowed to attach something to a special election. Which certainly there's more than enough time that if this was that crazy scenario that the county, I mean the federal presidential race would have one random city special election on it. Yeah. If that were the case. So anyway, my point is it doesn't. It's not really applicable in the current situation because it was a very tight race. I don't think anybody's going to be bent over backwards upset that Lynn is going to keep her seat. But if it was a different scenario where, you had a candidate that wasn't an incumbent that nobody liked, but it was only two candidates, and you had one that nobody liked, and like they pulled 1% in a primary or something like that. But there's only two people primary, and so they automatically go on. Well, I don't know. That'd be kind of a bummer if the other person that was pulling 80, 90% happens to die or whatever, and now this person automatically gets the seat, even though the public clearly said they don't like that person.
Yeah.
Now, that all goes back to say, well, when only 15,000 of the 102,000+ people in the city of Knoxville who are registered to vote bother voting, fucking suck it. You deal with what you got, people. Because I want to know what it is about India Kincannon that 55+ residents of the city of Knoxville like. Like, I want to understand that personally.
It's probably more so to do with that's the average age of most voters that go out to vote anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like at least in the early voting, we have those stats already. It was 60. It was like 80%. 75-80% of all the early votes and absentee cast ballots were 55+.
Yeah.
So even if India got all 20% of the non-senior population who bothered voting, that's still only 20 of her 60, almost 60%. So she still had to pull 40% of the old people. I mean, the majority, like it really, like if you're running for office in Knox County, city of Knoxville, I think you just run on whatever it is that the elderly are into. I think that's a guaranteed win.
I mean, that's what a lot of candidates do. I mean, that's what they do polling for.
I'm going to go. I'm going to
figure out what are the hot button issues.
I'm going to go knock doors and do all that thing and give out Metamucil.
Just good work.
I mean, and that's the sad part. I mean, that's the joke, I guess, is what I'm getting at. It's like that's crazy to me that it's that significantly statistically. Like, it's statistically that significant.
Yeah.
Like, the history of the city of Knoxville, the history of Knox County as far as right-left voting habits and stuff like that. Whatever. Age does matter to that, but that part doesn't bother me. But and again, in the history of voting, at least in semi-modern history, it's older people vote more often, period. The older people get, the more often they vote. I mean, that's me. I didn't vote much. I think I voted in every presidential. I think I voted in all the presidentials. I could ask Matt Shears. He can tell me how many presidential. He can tell me how many presidential primaries I voted in.
Sure.
Which means I voted in Knox County. Then I probably voted for Knox County mayor a few times too.
Yeah, very possible.
Because if I voted in the primary, that would have been on my ballot on a non-presidential cycle. No, maybe I didn't then because Knox County mayor is off cycle with the president. There was a state legislator protesting in. Did you share this story? That was doing some protest. They brought a sign onto the floor with them and got expelled from session Wednesday. You want to guess? You want to guess the name of the legislator who might have done that?
Was it Justin?
It was Justin. I think it was Jones.
I think I did hear about that. So I don't know if it was like the last day of the session, but apparently he started getting like closer to like Cameron Sexton, and they had to be like separated. They started like arguing.
Yeah, that's twice now, and that begs questions. Coincidences? I mean, like not Pearson's the Memphis one, right? Jones is the Nashville one.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Pearson's the taller one.
Correct as well.
Okay, I'm just making sure I remember who's what. Yeah, because it's Jones who's gotten into scuffles 2 or 3 times now. Because it was Jones who got his phone taken by Sexton or one of the other ones back in the regular session.
Yeah, I think it was like.
But I don't think it was Sexton though. I think it was.
Yeah, it was somebody else. I think that tried to grab his phone.
And I'm not saying, I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm just saying, coincidence is strong. If you have scuffles happening with the same person repeatedly, but the other parties change, there is something going on with the consistent party whom is enacting the scuffling sessions on some level.
I don't know if you can jump to that conclusion.
I mean, because at least this one was Sexton. The story from Sexton's camp was that they were moving through and there was a crowd and one of the highway patrolmen or something bumped him, and when he got bumped, he kind of fell into Jones, pushing him, and then Jones pushed him back. That was the story on this one.
Yeah, I thought I read like that Sexton was going by, then like kind of like brushed shoulders or accidentally like bumped shoulders with Jones, but I don't know.
Right. It could be it could be that he leaned in and tried to bump shoulders on purpose on either side of the story. It could be that it was the accidental the accidental brushing of the shoulder and then overreaction by Jones.
Just tight quarters and everybody trying to just get
It could be a lot of different things. It's just, I don't know. Dude has talent for making sure he gets some spotlight. Maybe I'll put it
I
down.
mean, I'd say at the same time, there's probably a lot of people in that legislature that just honestly don't like the guy.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know if you can necessarily say that, because incidents happen with the same party that's involved, I don't think that leans more blame towards that.
I think
one
you're right.
person.
I apologize. That was
Okay.
Not the most generous take on the possibility of the situation. Still a possibility, but
many things are possibilities.
Right. But I was taking it. Yeah. Okay. All right. I apologize. That was a bad take on my end. I only have a few every now and again.
That I remember.
Yeah. And so, Kincannon won walking away. The surprise to me was Amelia, not only surviving the primary, but
I think it was still pretty close, wasn't it?
Yeah, but she won it.
Yeah.
So the question becomes: do the Matthew Best voters bother coming back out? Some won't, because I believe the numbers will be down in total. But does Tim Hill pick up some of those voters, or does do Matt Best voters go to Amelia? I would think Amelia, just philosophically, even though Amelia's further left. Of the three, Matt was the center-ish candidate, but he's left of center at best. Pun intended. But I would think Amelia's probably going to keep the seat now.
It is a possibility.
But the crazy one was like Hill spent like $25 per vote. If you take his finances and how many votes he got,
yeah,
he spent like $25 a vote. Amelia spent like $4. So, to quote the
she was also the incumbent.
To quote the old Randy Pace, money doesn't buy elections or win elections. I don't remember how he said it, but he said some phrase.
Yeah, that was something I adamantly disagreed with him.
But tried to do it without, and I don't think he said that, but
that's what I basically tried to say. I was like, it ain't gonna happen without it.
Yeah, so
it's sure a big factor.
I think Debbie. I'm pretty sure Debbie's going to pull her race. She had a pretty good. I think she had a pretty solid. That was only a one-on-one primary anyway. So Charles is winning his seat, no problems.
That was the
seat 5.
Yeah.
And then the judges race, this Cavanis, which is interesting because this Cavanis guy
sounds relatively close. Yeah.
This Cavanis guy is like a good baseball throw, old enough. Like he's barely you had to be 30, and he just turned 31 right after he was 30 when he put his application in or his petition in.
Huh.
So he's barely 31. So he's looking at and Rawson's like 72 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think Cavanis is looking down the barrel of like a 40-year run here. He can just do it for the rest of the century.
Like, all right, I'll see you next time.
He's like, I'm going to win this, and then I'm going to stay here for 10.
I thought you meant
11.
If he lost, he was just going to keep running.
Oh, he might, but I'm just saying how long Rawson's been doing it, which he's never had a contested. He's had contested primaries, but he's never lost a primary. He's always won his seat in primary every time. There's only one other time. I think that's what Scott said. There's only one other time in his 10 cycles that he's been doing it that he had to go to the actual general to win the seat, and that was in his first official campaign because he was appointed to fill the seat and then ran as the appointed incumbent back in 92 or whatever it was. which is a crazy story. So anyway, that's the election thing. Kincannon wins running away. Then everything else is pretty tight except for the Cam Brooks mess, and that's a bummer. And I hate that.
Yeah,
that sucks. So let's go down the street a little bit to Maryville. Tell me what you've heard on what's going on in Maryville.
There was I don't recall the actual name of it, basically a pride parade that was planned by, don't recall the name of the group. But apparently the district attorney sent out a letter to them, the mayor, the police department, and
the sheriff's office.
Do they have city and?
Yes.
Okay. They're metro as well?
Correct.
Or they're non-metro, sorry. By saying that they would uphold the law.
They intend to prosecute on the state's new drag ban.
Right.
Yes. That is what I've heard as well. And
they intend to prosecute if there were complaints, if there was anything that was lodged that was,
right,
I guess, enforceable.
Which I think,
in their mind, basically. Which
is kind of there's a couple of weirdisms on it. That in and of itself is a weirdism.
I mean, the district attorney can't go out and just be like, okay, you guys are doing this. They have to have an actual complaint to be filed as a yes.
They could be the witness of it. They can be the complainant. He could send officers out to watch for it.
They personally could, but it would actually take an actual complaint filed with a police department to then kick up a... Yes.
Absolutely not. Who filed the complaint on you for speeding down the road to get here?
Police department.
Okay. So the complaint... Okay, fine. All right. Maybe this is mixing words. I apologize. Continue. I shouldn't have interrupted. I'm confused on your language.
I'm saying there has to actually be a complaint filed. The district attorney's office in general, may not necessarily the district attorney himself. Yes, he could be a complainant,
right,
and make the complaint to the police department. But I meant the district attorney's office in general does not have the authority just to observe it and be like, we're filing charges. There has to actually be a criminal complaint by law enforcement. There has to be a go-between.
Okay.
As far as I'm pretty sure that's how the legal system works.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm confused with the right.
Can't make up their own charges.
Complaint to the police department or by the police department to the police department has to bring the charges forth to the district attorney.
I believe that's how it works.
I don't know how it works. Well, yeah, we need a lawyer. We need a criminal lawyer.
If only we had one on retainer.
Well, he doesn't count. He's like, I do, civil rights law and whatever. It's like, I don't care about civil rights law. I do care about civil rights law, but I don't care about civil rights law.
I mean, this is damn near close to his wheelhouse. I mean, this is because this all goes into First Amendment of speech and assembly.
Yeah, I think the one that's crazy to me is why he bothers saying it.
And that's what I like. The one story that I read on it was towards the end that kind of made it that much more obvious that it was kind of this veiled threat of.
I mean, it's a political move.
It's
a politics move. It's a signal to a constituency because I don't know. I'm assuming the DA gets elected there just like it gets elected here in Knox County.
I believe so.
So it's a signal to the constituency because realistically, in my joke about speeding down the street or whatever, they prosecute the law as the complaints come in.
Right.
They don't prosecute the law willy-nilly. And this is one of the things that and I kind of respect the statement because I wish more DAs would do it on some of these controversial question mark issues.
You respect the statement?
I respect the statement. I don't think he should. He doesn't have the legal right to do so, but I respect him being public with his plan, yes. Because shit like Sharm Allen, who is asked repeatedly things on hey, how do you plan to prosecute some of this abortion stuff as it's coming online? Well, we'll have to. It's case by case. We'll have to see it when it gets here. It's the same. It's the same complaint I have. Well, it's the same complaint I have about my stupid poker tournament I did years ago. If nobody can answer the fucking question, how do I navigate legally if nobody can tell me if it's legal or not?
That is literally the legal system. Is that it all comes down to a case by case basis.
Okay, then no, it doesn't. But okay,
what do you mean? No, it doesn't.
But then it's not a fair and just system. If it can be willy nilly swung,
it is. There are general guidelines and rules, but there are.
Okay, how fast
there are circumstances for it.
Fast
you can get pulled over
for
speeding and doing 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. You can also get pulled over for doing 100 miles over the speed limit. There's a difference in circumstances of the same. You are still convicted of speeding.
No, I don't think so, because I think they have different levels of speeding.
There are enhanced.
It goes from speeding to reckless endangerment to whatever is past that.
Correct.
And so there's a tiered system that clearly states that if you were in this bracket, this is what happens. If you're in this bracket, this is what happens.
Right.
Now, pleading out and all the little different subset of behind the line brings in some gray area and stuff like that. But at least on the front end of it, I, as a citizen, know that the speed limit is set at 70. If I'm driving 75, I am speeding, and I am taking the risk of getting a fine accordingly.
Right.
Because I am actively, knowingly breaking the law. Because I know the speed limit is 70. It's posted every fucking 15 feet.
Right.
All right. So it's clear that this is the law. And this is what you can and can't do. Now, there is the general guidance of, well, about 10 overs before they really get pissy about it and shit like that we all kind of operate under.
That's where you have discretion within the law enforcement and within the judicial system itself.
But when you can't answer, like when you can't answer the question about a charity poker tournament, or you can't answer the question to a hospital who has who in emergency services may perform an emergency abortion on how to handle it, then they don't know what they can do without putting themselves at risk. And that's inappropriate to me. And I think that...
You can't have them generalize and give you a fucking yes or no answer just because that's what you want. Because there are different circumstances to it, especially when you have to do with medical abortion. There are a variety of different versions of it, of things that could be considered abortions, things that aren't, that are very closely related, that would be nearly identical.
Have we had this argument before?
I don't.
I feel like we have.
Well, I'm sure we've had abortion arguments before.
No, I feel like the deja vu moment was specifically this. I feel like that if you're gonna have a body that's luckily elected,
you just want it black and white, and that's not the way the legal system is. Unfortunately, there is area for interpretation of the law, and for there being the varying degrees.
But that's the point of it. But the trial is to work out those gray areas, not to the gray areas shouldn't be established before the trial. They should be established at the trial. Because that's the job of the attorneys, to work the gray areas on behalf of their client, whether their client is the state or a person.
You're right. We should make every single law in Tennessee, we should just expand it and be very, very, very finite and just parcel out any and all circumstances that could be related to any sort of offense whatsoever. Is that what you want? More laws? I mean, or should we have pretty general laws that make sense, but open?
What you're asking is not more laws. It would be a better definition of the laws that exist. Yes, I would like a better definition of the laws that exist. Okay. And if you can't narrowly define it, maybe you shouldn't write it down, which is the problem with this drag law in the first place. It's not clearly defined as what it is.
Right. This was why I got overturned. That's what I was trying to get back to.
It's too broad. It's too general. It's unspecific.
But when the judge overturned it, apparently it only applied to Shelby County.
But it was a federal judge citing civil rights law, so it's
right. But his opinion
technically only serves there, but
didn't only serve there, but it also basically just said that it was vague and almost just kind of kicked it back to the legislature. But it didn't just outright just be like, he did say, that this law or this essentially violates the First Amendment.
Right, but for this DA,
he kind of left it at that and didn't leave like a final ruling upon it.
But for this Blount County DA to try this,
right,
and had this injunction that came down this afternoon not come down, making it clear that he can't try it. But had he tried it and arrested somebody on it, there's already precedent in the state of it being unconstitutional federally.
Right. I'm sure the DA knows that it would get overturned if it did get kicked up. But at the same time, he would have already canceled the parade. He
would have interrupted the thing, but I don't know.
Gotten his cookie points with his followers.
That goes back to my thing with the Tennessee 3 bullshit. All you've done is empowered your enemy by all your attempts to shut him down. And that would be the same thing in this situation. The national... I don't understand the thought process, because it's clearly a political move. It's a politics move. It's a signal to the base, like we already said, from this DA. I'm going to defend the sanctity and the quality of life here in Blount County and keep these weird fucks doing their weird shit in our neighborhoods.
You're not doing this Labor Day weekend. Fuck off.
And I don't understand. You're a lawyer. You're a top end lawyer. You got to be pretty damn good. Or you got to be a decent lawyer at least. I don't know. Maybe you don't in Blount County, but I would assume just to get your law, you have to have the bar. You have to pass the bar exam. Mm-hmm. You have to have a license to practice law in the state of Tennessee. I don't think you're allowed to be a moron. Actually, I take that back. I know a moron who's a lawyer, but anyway.
I know a few as well.
But I mean, it's just like, how can you not see this? How can you have been elected for something and gone through a political process and not see how clearly this backfired on the state GOP with all their Tennessee 3 shit?
Do you think it did? Oh, sorry. I thought you meant as far as them passing the anti-drag bill. Sorry.
No, but I mean,
I think you were taking it back to Tennessee 3.
I get, but as a lawyer, I don't see how you wouldn't see that what happened in Memphis and know that means that what happened in the Shelby County suit is going to make it so that any attempt to do anything is going to garner huge attention. Like again, like I think national NAACP, every pride group in the east of the Mississippi is going to show up and protest on the doorstep and stuff like that. It would become a huge circus that would negatively impact what his vision of Blount County is. I don't know how you don't see that. Like I don't know how he would think this process through and think that this wouldn't be the natural result.
Maybe he thought since the latest judgment ruling was even still kind of vague, maybe he thought there was still a window of hope of trying to kick it back up and appeal it again.
But I would think as a DA who's done stuff like this before and messed around and had to deal with the legals and stuff like that, that you would know that the first case, you knew that the law was controversial in the first place. I would think you would know that. And the first case,
maybe in his mind, he thinks it's rock solid.
The first case involving somebody who was actually arrested isn't going to be a big story, because the Shelby County case was a suit by a theater of some sort preemptively. Like it wasn't like they did a show and a couple of dancers got arrested and the owner of the theater got arrested. It was the owner and the theater troupe or whatever was suing the state for keeping them from being able to do a show by the definition at play, and that's how the injunction or whatever went down over there. So you didn't have any actual criminal defendants in that case. I couldn't imagine that as a lawyer you wouldn't know, because I mean I'm sure there's been some high profile cases here and there in Blount County that have garnered more attention than maybe they deserved. I would think.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe that's an overestimate on my part, but I would think that if you have some political energy in your brain, you could see how this might end up being a strong backfiring situation, especially with how some of the other stuff's gone around you if you're paying attention.
I would guess that he went just for immediate optics and people wouldn't really follow it after the fact or really dig into it much, and they would just read that one story that like, hey, our DA's trying to fight for our...
Well, congratulations, Blount County. Your DA's a moron, and you should probably elect a new one next time. He could be a conservative asshole, just a less dumb one, so that he doesn't make things worse by his viewpoint, by trying to make things better in the wrong way.
Maybe he just wanted to be in the news. Maybe he felt lonely.
Yeah, that could
He's
be.
like, man, if I do this, I bet you I make national news.
Could be chasing.
Maybe it was just some big fucking bet.
Could be chasing some fame. I mean, I guess what's the damage?
He's
what's the harm to him, especially if he's on some term limited seat anyway and he's done not coming back?
Possible.
Yeah, fuck it. That's why. Let's make some shit go down. Let's see what happens. Woo-wee!
Let's throw the baby out with the bathwater.
You see that dude in the dress? I'm gonna arrest his ass.
I got you.
So, yeah. But anyway, some injunction came down this afternoon, basically making it clear to the law enforcement side of it that they have no grounds to do anything, so they need to stand down.
I hope that increases turnout tomorrow. Then.
I think I hope I hope people feel more comfortable going if they were planning on going.
Well, I hope people would do it just to even before like this whole injunction came down, just to throw more support behind it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's
like,
there's probably a mixed bag, because there's probably a group of people that were planning on going just to stir the shit because there was going to be what's going down, that wanted to be part of the scene and the craziness if the cops started arresting people.
No.
There's probably a group of people that were planning on going that are now like, damn it, we don't get to go make a mess.
I don't know about that. I don't think a lot of people go out just with the effort to get arrested.
Not to get arrested, but to thumb their nose at it, for lack of a better word. To be like, you're going to arrest me for being me? Fuck you, buddy. I'll show you.
Yeah, maybe some, but...
But I hope that if there was anybody who was planning on going that decided not to go because of what was going on around it, that now that it's clear, when the law is clear and you feel better about yourself and you can understand what you can and can't do with your life, it's nice, and now they may go and enjoy themselves and not worry about a bunch of bullshit and flack from the po-po.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There was some big entertainer that got invited, but don't recall their stage name. But it was like a play on like a Some kind of like...
Yes, it's their actual name's Chris something. I don't remember their stage name either, but apparently they have the #1 iTunes Christian song.
Interesting.
Currently or recently on the iTunes top downloaded songs charts thing, which is another interesting wrinkle in the game, I guess. I don't know. But yes, they were a performer and co-producer of the event or something like that. I can't remember. They were more than just performing.
Oh, okay. I thought I read it as they'd get hired to come perform. It's just kind of like a big name.
Maybe I don't know. I could be conflating the two as well. I don't remember. But it's crazy.
What else we got?
I mean, I wish I would have spent more time preparing because I was picked up the neighbor's kids and took them to school on Wednesday.
How nice of you.
And while we were there, we were joking about it. I was like, oh, you guys must have been nice having a day off yesterday. I was like, did your parents vote? They're like, no, because they actually live in the city where we don't. They're like, did you vote? I was like, I can't. I don't get to vote. I'm not a city resident. And so we were kind of joking about it. And I had happened to check some of the polling numbers by precinct because I was curious if Rocky Hill is a voting precinct for city races, which it's not. And so I was kind of going through and I was thinking, like, I kind of went down a little rabbit hole of like, why do we have school off today? And I found it. There's Beard Middle is a polling location, and the day of election at Beard Middle was 260 people. Now, a couple of different places that there were schools. Like there's a lot more community centers, churches, and stuff like that I guess are polling places all the time, but they use more schools when it's a countywide race.
Yeah.
And so, and then there's the whole, like, why do we vote on Tuesdays anyway? Like, part of me was like, why didn't we do this on Friday and make it a 4-day weekend with a holiday on Monday? That would be cool as shit.
True.
Like, I understand it is now tradition and it's now scheduled. It's the second Tuesday of this or the first Tuesday of that or the last Tuesday in this month or whatever it is.
Bet Chris could tell you. Like, well, it goes back to 1894.
There's some it's like it was supposed to be something about farmers. Back in the day, it was the easiest day for farmers to get out and not be on the field, which doesn't make a bit of fucking sense to me.
I guess.
Not Sunday, they're at church. Not Wednesday, they might be at church.
That was exactly what I was just thinking. It was maybe since they rested on Sunday, and they're like, we didn't do anything yesterday, like, we got to fucking hit the fields Monday. Like, literally, like, give us a day to, like, pick some corn and do some shit, and, like, we can do this tomorrow, but I didn't do anything yesterday. I got to do something tomorrow.
Right. I can't be skipping.
Or I do it today.
I can't skip Monday after I took off Sunday. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to be double fucked on Wednesday, so we'd also come out and vote on Tuesday, but know that I had a day off, and I had to bust my ass, and I'll give me another day off, and I go bust my ass again.
Again, I guess really what I'm trying to do is reinforce how shitty the turnout was and how pathetic it is.
Right.
I'm going to be hateful.
I mean, is it comparable to previous, or is it down? Okay.
It's down. It's not hugely down. I mean, again, the question I still have is it is definitely down from the comparable of 2015, which would be the comparable for this one. Okay. The last time we had an incumbent mayor. Actually, I think it's a little up from that one. Anyway, it's not significant. The question I have is, as a percentage of the voting population, I'm confident it's gone down because the voting population has definitely gone up over the last decade, and the numbers are down or even in raw numbers. So if we're up 20,000 people and the same number of people voted, then we're down 10%, 15, 20%, whatever that is in voters, mathematically. I just think it's a bummer. I think we could do better.
It is.
Because what it really means
is not surprising.
Yeah, but what it really means to me is that it's just people are either disinterested or probably the more likely is they don't understand what they're voting for. They don't understand what these people do. And it goes back to my whole thing. We don't know what they do. So what are we picking on? And if it doesn't, like, if your perception is that it doesn't make a difference, then why bother?
Okay.
I'm just like,
you're right.
That's my guess. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have a better guess on why people don't vote?
No. Sorry, I was being facetious, but yeah. We don't know what the mayor does. We should just stop voting for the mayor.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm saying that is my argument for the reason on why people don't vote. Is that they don't? It's not a perceivable difference from Mayor A to Mayor B because they don't actually know what they do.
Compulsory voting.
I mean, it's not the worst idea. It'd be interesting. I think I still think ranked choice would help a lot. I think ranked choice would help a lot because then we wouldn't have as many elections because you would have just one election. You wouldn't have a primary and then an election. You would just have an election.
Why would you not?
Why would you do a primary to limit the field? Like, how would you do? Like, okay, so
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the whole point of ranked choice is if you have 6 people, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And you keep rolling until one person has 50%. You keep dropping off the lowest vote getter until everybody's second pick or third pick gets somebody to plus 50%. There would be no point to have a primary and a general. You'd have generals only.
Yeah.
And so we'd have less elections. So that might make it people a little bit more apt to participate because they don't have to go through a 2-part cycle every year. Or a 3-part cycle every year, every even year here. What else? There was something else today. County Commission restructured. They do that. I mean, it's the first Friday in September is County Commission's restructuring day, and so we have a new commission chair of Kim Smith, I think. But I don't know.
I don't know.
It's just like I feel like I'll ask Courtney about it next time I see her. I really think it's just a resume point to be chair. Like I don't understand. Like it just seems like more work for the same job as a commissioner. You get to run the meeting, but that means you also have to prepare the meeting. You have to set the agenda. They vote on the agenda, but you have to set it and get it written up, and you got to sign all the paperwork at the end of it and shit like that, where everybody else gets to be like deuces.
Right, but you also kind of lead it, and I think you're kind of the running person. Like, the chair has the floor essentially at all times.
Right. I think there's a little bit more authority.
Recognized by the chair.
You have a little bit more weight in decision making and stuff like that.
Right.
Even though you only still have one vote, but you still can kind of push it around by procedure.
I've jokingly seen it like in some of the state committees that the chair will be like, "Oh, yeah," in the opinion of the chair, the yeas have it, and just gavel it out really quickly.
Which that's bullshit. But that's also subcommittee, which is a little different. They do subcommittees in commission, but subcommittees in the state are a little different, chair wise. Which I still think that's bullshit that they don't vote. It should be recorded votes on everything.
Sure.
If it's something, if it's a bill that's pass or no pass, or if it's an amendment to a bill that's pass or no pass, it should be. There's no reason we shouldn't record those votes.
I think there was an attempt to pass something like that.
Yeah, they do it every couple of years. That's a For All Tennessee thing that Justin Cornett group. Yeah. That's always one of their items is that everything in the House should always have a tally vote or a roll call vote. Sorry, that's the word.
Yeah.
That they should.
And apparently, like, you can request that in the committees, like I said, where that's done, where they quickly try to gavel it out, but you have like that split second to try to be like
right. And it's also of the opinion of the chair on whether he can grant it. He can't. I don't think the chair has to accept it.
No.
I think the chair could be like, no, that was clearly yeas.
In the opinion of the chair, I don't want to.
Right. In the opinion of the chair, we don't need a roll call vote. It was clearly yeas.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature.
Yeah.
I like Oliver Anthony even more. I will listen to his Rogan. Did you listen to the Rogan?
Well,
no. He's just a normal ass dude. Country dude. That whole shit about it, the GOP, he's kind of laughing and making fun of the GOP for putting it. They played it at the debate.
Oh, yeah. I heard about
or
that.
as a question at the debate. They were talking about the song or whatever.
No, I think it played as like the opening or something like that.
He's just like that. But I mean, like I would say that in the more traditional terms of Democrat Republican, he's probably a Republican. He didn't ever mention Trump in the episode at least, but he's pretty much just a normal dude. But broke his fucking skull, like when he was 25, I think he said, in a workplace accident. And then, like in that whole concussion, his concussion recovery process is got fairly suicidal and got really dark. And so the only reason he started actually recording his stuff and putting it out is because he didn't think he was going to be alive for much longer. Huh. And then the second part of it is that song, the Richmond North of Richmond song, he had kind of been working on, but he hadn't finished it. And there's a local like bluegrass country station or whatever DJ that like has like a local segment, and he goes out, and so like apparently he'd hit him up. He's like, "Hey, I heard that Richmond song. I want to come record that at this new as a special WNRX or whatever the radio station is like a special whatever thing." And he's like, "You sure? I'm not." He's like, "No, you're doing that song. I don't care." And so like the second verse he'd written like an hour before he recorded it. Huh. And so it wasn't something he'd gotten to spend a lot of time on. Yeah. And I believe that's the Twinkie or the Fudge Rounds line. Oh, okay. As part of that. And so, but anyway, I don't know. I think he's more. I think he's just an average dude that's frustrated with what's going on and what he sees by his government bodies doing what they do. And he wrote a little bit of he wrote a song about it that had a few lines that were a little bit underthought out. But I still think the chorus is spot on. I still think the frustration with government and what it does and what it doesn't do. That rings to me, I guess. But anyway, he was fun on Rogan. I thought he was pretty funny.
Cool.
So, what else are we missing? I got the obits, and that was one I wanted to. I didn't want to dwell on because I didn't want it to be a bummer. Yeah. I know I'm forgetting something. I always do this, like every episode.
Something that happened today.
The Chodo stuff. You heard anything on the Chodo thing?
No idea what you're talking about.
You know what Chodo is? It's a neighborhood
area. Yeah.
Okay. I don't. You have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'm trying to figure out where I need to start.
You're giving me a single fucking word and expecting me to just extrapolate what I might think you may be talking about when you say.
I'm not asking you to extrapolate on what
the
I'm
name of a
about.
road, the name of an area, the name of a fucking yacht club, the name of a restaurant that's out there. No, I don't.
I didn't know there's a yacht club.
There's like some like boat dock out there. I think there's like Chodo Marina.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe not yacht club, marina.
Apologies. Yes, the Chodo neighborhood, whatever it's called. I think it's technically a peninsula, so it's like and it's some shit that pops out into the river there. There's a developer trying to put a apartment complex that's going to be Section 8, and everybody's like, "Fuck no!" Everybody's pissed about it, and it's turned into what BIMBY, I think is the word. Have you ever heard that word before?
Don't believe
NIMBY.
So.
Sorry, NIMBY. NIMBY's the word.
You know this word I just met? No. You know this wrong word? No, I don't.
NIMBY, that's the short version of Not in My Backyard.
Oh.
And so the NIMBYs are going insane out there about, it's like, well, we don't have bus service out here, so how are these people that are living in Section 8 houses supposed to get to work?
Jesus Christ.
And, traffic's already bad. And it's like, well, you just said they couldn't go to work, so they're not going to work. You're not going to add to traffic if they can't drive. You just assume they couldn't drive, so how are they going to add to traffic? I mean, I'll agree with that North Shore's got more traffic than it can handle already. I agree. But that's everywhere in Knox County.
Not that end of North Shore.
Yeah, not that end of North Shore until you're trying to get somewhere. Like you're either going you're either going east on North Shore towards like Pellissippi, and then traffic sucks once you get closer to Pellissippi, and it's super congested.
I'd say close to there, you're almost just as close to Lenore City.
Sure, but then going west from there too, that's a 1-lane road all the way out until you get into Lenore City.
Right.
And then there's a big, long, curvy, whatever doohickey that goes back into getting to Kingston Pike out on the west side of Farragut from there. Like, you can't get anywhere super quick and easy there. And add traffic to that, it's going to make it less quick or easy. I think that's a fair statement, but that's Knox County, period.
Right.
And so the question is,
you can make that argument anywhere. Like,
right.
Well, if we put a multi-housing complex here that houses 300 people, you're going to have added traffic.
Right. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same argument from 2 weeks ago on Oakwood Lincoln Park was fighting back against that Chickamauga development.
Man, fuck, it didn't stop them from putting that brand new. I think people live in there now. The one right there in the corner of Westland and Ebenezer. There's a new apartment complex right there behind that new shopping complex. I mean, that's fucking.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of the name of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it used to be that awesome nursery place.
Yeah, but I mean that place is that's a pretty big fucking apartment complex. You want to bitch about increasing traffic, you just plop down a giant apartment complex right in what was already
let's be real.
Pretty shitty traffic.
I don't know how much you remember Ebenezer from back in the day.
Who moved here before you did?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think you did.
I did.
So Ebenezer and Westland, for that matter, back in the day, was sketchy.
Sketchy.
Westland?
Yeah.
Like Westland going from Ebenezer to Morel?
Yeah.
Where the propane place is?
Right.
Do you remember how that was that Gallagher that comes out right there?
Yeah, we used to have a super steep.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
That's where my sister got into like one of her first wrecks.
So, back in the day, it was one lane each way with, I don't even know that the full width of the white line was there before the ditch fell off the sides. It was ditched on both sides, really narrow. It's like Nubbin Ridge is now, all the way down, except it was a cliff going to the railroad
Westland
tracks.
or Gallagher right there, or what used to that old shitty go over the railroad tracks and all of a sudden you're 50 degrees pointing down.
Westland used to be like super narrow, and then but there was no shoulder or anything to it either. No turn lanes anywhere through the whole process. It was just one lane each direction, and that was it. And then Ebenezer back in the day used to go over the train tracks back then too.
No, there's always been a turn lane.
Where?
For a good chunk of it. Right there hitting Sanford Day. Going down near that, was it the Reserve? I think is that a apartment complex?
Right, there was no, not in the apartment complex. There was a turn lane going into the neighborhood because of the train tracks on the across from there.
No, anyway.
Yeah. Moral of the story is we don't have the infrastructure in Knox County, period, anywhere. That's county proper. Now, some of the stuff in the city could handle. It wouldn't be as big a deal but it's still not. There's still most of the city that can't handle it.
I'm not buying the argument.
That's
as many apartment complexes I've seen plop down in the middle of like already crazy shit.
No, I think it's true. I think it's true that the infrastructure's not there, period. But it's not anywhere. And so the question is, well, where are we going to put these people? People are coming. We have to deal with it. And not building or refusing to allow people to build stuff is not going to fix our housing situation in this town.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think you're going to light the fire under... I don't know what department does all the...
Well, the argument from Jacobs is the infrastructure will come with the development. We develop things, the property values go up, we get more property tax. We get more residents, they spend more money on stuff locally, we get more local sales tax. And when we get those taxes and stuff rolling in, then we can build the infrastructure because we have the money.
I was thinking we're not going to let a fire under their ass to actually start trying to improve until you show them like, hey, there is a high demand right here, right now, because we just did this and we've added this many cars, and then they put down those little counters that that count how many cars are going through a certain area between certain times. Because essentially, you have to prove to them that like it's worth,
right. Which again, good to roll off of last week. And okay, because we did start to do a big topic at the end last week, so we'll jump back in there. Is that things that government's supposed to do? Infrastructure. These would be the things that they should do. These are the things that we should be arguing about what they're doing with our money instead of other things. I won't go where I want to go on the national level stuff, but I don't know what the total income in the county is.
We're never going to do preemptive infrastructure.
We're
always going to be
in the
very much far behind any kind of catching up with any kind of like proper infrastructure.
We could sort of but that's because we're idiots, the electorate. That's not. I don't remember if he told me off the record, so I won't say who it was. But a commissioner told me one time, you cannot build infrastructure to nowhere. You will get run out of office.
All right, that's what I said. You're not going to be able to preemptively do it. And you wouldn't do it to nowhere, but
why not?
In areas of not high demand, but then like 10 years ago, if we would have started, trying to build up more infrastructure in like Hardin Valley that's been blowing up for 10 years now.
Right.
But if they would have started building it up then, they're like, well, there's no real need for it. Where's the need for this money that you're asking us to allocate out to do this, and this?
Well, the question, I think the real question is that
and you're like, well, I'm 99% sure that this shit's about to blow up. And you're
right.
like, well,
but the question is that I think that is a zero-sum conversation. I think the argument is, why aren't you spending that money on this project over here instead of that infrastructure to nowhere? I think that's more the argument than, because I think if the finances weren't part of the conversation, or at least the majority of the conversation, if it was really like, okay, we're looking forward to seeing what we think Knox County is going to look like in a decade, and our experts and estimates and all this stuff say that we're going to expand in here and this, and we're going to get more people living here, so we need to start building this infrastructure out. I think you could make that argument. I think the argument you can't make as a politician is we're spending this money on people that don't even live here yet instead of on a new school over here, or getting that road fixed that's been having problems recently, or doing this. Right. I think that's the political pitfall, is that I think you could sell it if you were getting the other shit done too, I guess is a way to say it.
Yeah.
I think that's the reality of it. And
we're not talking about building like, a quad lane road to nothing.
I wouldn't see why not. It'd be easier and cheaper to do it when there's nothing out there than trying to buy up land and take on easements and eminent domain on stuff and doing all that kind of crap once it's already developed.
Owned by whom?
What do you mean?
You're talking about buy up. Who's buying up all this that's going to then build the infrastructure?
If it's a county road, the county would have to buy the land to build the road on. They don't just own it. If they're expanding an existing
I'm talking
road,
about building new roads, to expanding upon existing roads.
Well, even then, it'd be when you pull the eminent domain card out in a rural area, the land's cheaper when it's when it's pre-development stage than when you have a neighborhood that's already there that are $300,000 homes. You had a 5-acre like a 5-acre small farm, that had a tiny house on it.
I see what you're saying, but then it would be hard to prove to the electorate that. You're like, hey, we're saving money by doing this.
Ooh, actually, I just thought of the sales pitch.
Yeah, but you're still doing this. You're spending money on this. But, these schools over here don't have AC at all.
But right,
this school over here doesn't have heat.
But the follow-up sales pitch, though, would be, hey, all you people out there that were buying a little bit of your land off of you to expand this road up, it's going to make your property more valuable when you go to sell it. Because this is being set up to be a development, and so developers are going to come in and buy your farm. And that's another one that people pitch a fit about too. Well, all the farms are going away. It's like, well, the farmers are selling their farms.
So you make happy a very small portion of your electorate.
I'm just saying that's part of that could be added to the pitch. It's not the totality of the pitch, but that would be something that you could at least add to it. It's like, hey, this is old farmland. These people aren't really working the land anymore anyway. By making this very minimal purchase on the county's part to expand this roadway, we're increasing their property values so that when they do go to sell and the development does come, this portion of town, these people can get a little bit more out of their land. But I think, I do think it's the zero sum argument that's more of the issue. Yeah. We can build a baseball stadium, but we can't build a road. Ooh, I went there.
Ooh.
But so, but anyway, that's the stuff.
Cross my mind yet.
Do it.
I couldn't agree with you more because baseball stadium is a waste of money.
Hey, we're going to Bridgestone. The city of Nashville bought that shit.
Yes. I'd have to look at the specifics of it.
I'm sure the state pitched in too.
Probably.
I don't know what the total is, but I bet you if I could get Mr. what the fuck was his name?
But that is literally a multi-use arena. It's been voted like one of the best. I think like the past 2 years, I think it was like Nexstar or something, or Polestar. But it's been ranked like one of like the top venues like in the world.
It's a solid venue. I don't know.
Or at least maybe not the world, maybe the U.S. Sorry.
I'd be curious what the parameters for that ranking is, because I think part of it is because it's Nashville. Some of the events that go on in that, I would say that probably has one of the best schedules. of any arena in the country, short of like Madison Square Garden or something like that. Because I'd say that because one the regionally, what else is around? So like, you know, although Foo Fighters were coming through Knoxville before the stupid pandemic came and ruined it. Prior to that, Foo Fighters played in Nashville. They didn't come to Knoxville since like the late aughts. You know, so it's the biggest venue in a lot of space. Like there's not much else nearby.
Atlanta is probably the closest.
Right. Atlanta. I mean,
I don't know where the Memphis Grizzlies play. I don't know how big of an area that is.
It used to be the Pyramid.
Right.
I guess it's not still.
No, I don't think so. And that's now a Bass Pro Shop.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I'd say you're looking at Indianapolis, Atlanta, Charlotte, New Orleans.
Maybe Cincinnati? No, that might place the football.
Yeah, they play football
or the
and
baseball.
Yeah. I'm sure they have one. Xavier's there.
I think Miami of Ohio is not far outside of it.
Yeah.
But like as far as like, you know, arenas.
Yeah, but Atlanta, Charlotte.
Louisville probably?
No, they don't have anything. I mean, they have Louisville University. You know,
I would thought with that being such a big arena, yeah, Rupp Arena is probably bigger.
Yeah, Rupp and Lexington. Yeah, maybe Memphis, but past Memphis, you're probably looking at like St. Louis.
Yeah.
And then you're into New Orleans. Like, I mean, it's like it is kind of in a desert of spots, and so I think it gets a lot of shows. That I think it's got it probably has one of the better schedules, like the fuller, bigger name schedules than a lot of places too, just because of where it sits locally.
Pretty sure what I read, that's not the only like parameters.
I'm not saying the only, but I'm saying I would assume that it's one of them. Like one of the parameters would be if you could just have a seat that was yours, and you could go to any event there. You would have the best year ever because these are the events that go through there, not just because it's a cool building.
I would hope that's not a huge weight upon voting, because essentially once you had a good arena, you're automatically getting more things. So then that just adds more votes to your tally there. It's like, oh, well, you're already badass arenas, so
right.
You're getting more venues, so you have a great schedule.
But I would say though, I would argue that it probably has a better schedule than other comparable, even in major cities.
Probably, but I'm saying I don't think they have much weight to that being voting upon that being a favorable arena. I think they look at like the amenities, what they have to offer, probably like
where it sits,
the
in
variabilities,
town, all the cool stuff that the town has as part of it.
Sure, that's part of it. But I think it's more just on like the arena itself. I don't think they really look at the outside of like, oh, well, there's lots of hotels, so this is a great arena. Fuck that. They're saying like, hey, they got a lot of box office. There's good food there. Blah blah blah.
I still think it's part of it. Just saying. I would think that I would assume it is, because at the end of the day, I don't know. At the end of the day, I wouldn't think the promoter's perspective on it's very important to their rating. Like it's an easy venue to get in and out of as a promoter and to set up for different things. Because I think that's like standard in most arenas nowadays, is that they're very easy multi-use. I mean, Food City Center. Excuse me. I think I just threw up a little bit. The Food City Center is, I mean, they do monster truck shows in that bitch.
They did that. Oh, sorry.
I'm just saying. Like,
I was like, they do it here. And I was like, wait, no, yeah, you were still talking about Tom Spalding.
Yes, I was throwing up on.
I saw it there once, and it's pretty fucking hilarious because it's pretty fucking short. So they pretty much have to gun it for like 50 feet and then slam on the brakes.
I think my favorite thing about monster trucks is when they're on regular wheels. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of the venues like that, they can't get inside because they're too tall, or in their trailers. They take the monster truck tires off, and they put just like regular 22-inch rims on it, just to get it in and out and park it and put it in the trailer and all that kind of stuff. And it's the funniest looking thing ever. Looks like skateboard wheels on a giant thing. Like right. It's just funny. Like it's just funny looking.
Something don't look right.
But I'm excited to go to Bridgestone. I haven't been to Bridgestone since the last time I was there for the Foo Fighters forever ago.
Yes, I've never been in there.
You never been in Bridgestone at all?
No.
Damn. Only been a couple times. I'm trying to think of what all I've been. I'm trying to think of what I've done.
Have you been to the Ryman?
Nope.
Oh, the Ryman's nice.
Really?
Yeah, been there twice.
Yeah, I've never been into the big standard concert venues in Nashville. I've never been to the Bijou here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never got an occasion to go to the Bijou.
Damn. Bijou's nice.
Been to a handful of shows at Tennessee.
It's not very big, but I mean, it's still nice. It's like a nice little smaller theater.
Mill and Mine's kind of cool.
Yeah, went there once.
Um,
I'm not too keen on the outdoor area. I mean, it's nice, but same for like a concert venue. It's like, oh, you can span it out to there. Like, if I'm standing out there, I can't see or hear shit.
Right.
Like, I don't know how good your outdoor speakers are. I'd rather be inside.
I think it's just a way to make it a more multi-use for them because they do weddings and shit there.
Oh, really?
So to bring it back local for a second, this is hearsay at best, but I was told that Kincannon told a business that if they don't want to deal with some of the public issues that they're having, they should hire their own security, and that hiring your own security is the cost of doing business in the city of Knoxville.
Say that again?
I was told by a neighboring business in our central location that Kincannon had told them that hiring security is the cost of doing business in the city of Knoxville. Hiring your own private security for your place is the cost of doing business in the city of Knoxville. Now, the election's already happened. I'm not trying to throw salt in her game. She's already won. She's already the mayor. And it might be true, but I just don't know if that's something you should say.
She's not wholly wrong. I mean, that's why a lot of higher volume places do have their own quote unquote securities or bouncers or whatever.
I mean, and again, going into one of the legal isms that I don't know the clarification on, like, it's not illegal to be homeless. It's not technically illegal to panhandle, generally speaking, in Knoxville. There are locations where they're panhandle-free zones. Like, there's a few, like near the interstate, like some of the interstate exits and stuff like that have signs that say no panhandling.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they're panhandle, like, free zones. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes,
that's what you're saying. Yeah.
You cannot panhandle here.
Right.
There is no panhandling.
So I love seeing the guys that are standing next to. I really want to roll my window. Like, oh, here's my.
Right.
Did you not see the sign?
Right.
Like,
which is funny because they're standing under the sign that says no panhandling.
Right.
The 40 exit onto Hall of Fame going eastbound. That's all the time there. Right at the top of that hill at the light where you stop at the light.
Yeah,
there's a sign on the corner and there's always somebody there.
There was one lady, I swear, that was just bawling, crying. She would be the greatest actress. It was just bawling, crying at the corner of Lovell and Parkside there, like right at like Turkey Creek, like that corner there with like wasabi and everything.
Yeah.
We'll just see like standing there, just like pouty face, like tears going down her face. I see her almost like every day.
Crying every day?
Yeah, damn near. And then I'm pretty sure I saw her daughter one day.
Sure
it looked just like her, and I'm like,
outside. It might just be sweat.
No, I haven't seen her in a long time. This was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Well, so like I guess part of it to me is like it gets to the question. It's like, okay, well, you know, if I were to have a business and I didn't want my staff or my customers being hassled by the unhoused of Knoxville on their way in and out of work, or to be a patron of mine, I could, you know, if it's on my property the whole time, sure, I guess I can secure my own property as far as, hey, person, you can't be on here talking to my guests. If you're a customer and want to come in and buy something,
go out to the city property.
If not, you need to stay off of our property. You know, and that, you know, where the police at, like, I mean, theoretically, how's a policeman supposed to be in that position?
They're the only one that can issue trespass.
Right, but that they can only be considered trespassing if I say so. There is a form you can fill out with the city of Knoxville that basically says if you cruise by and there's like, because we have that recessed doorway.
Yeah.
So if you're just happen to cruise by and there's somebody sleeping in my doorway, they're trespassing. Or if they're on our deck or under our deck and we're closed, they're trespassing. and you can, and I've given the police department of the city of Knoxville the authority to remove them from my property without specific consent, because anybody is now trespassing.
Gotcha.
When we're not open.
Because some of what I was seeing was like trespassing. Essentially, you have to give them like a trespass warning to start out with, and then if they remain, that's when you can.
Right.
That's when they can be cited for trespassing.
Like one of the things I've taught every manager at every store is, as soon as you tell somebody they're not allowed to be here, they're trespassing. It's that simple. You say, "Hey, person, you need to leave."
Right, but I think even if the police showed up and they were still on premise, the police, I'm pretty sure, would still tell them.
Right,
like,
they're just going to chase them off. They don't want to
you've been
arrest them, right?
trespassed. You need to leave. If you come back here again, then we can arrest you for trespassing.
Right, or if you refuse to leave right now.
Like I think you have to be trespassed before you can be considered trespassing. Yeah, it's a weird little area, but I think at the same time, like I think, like you said, like if you as the manager or owner of that location,
if you're
say,
like the rule is, if you're,
I've told you need to leave. You are now remaining on property. If you don't leave, I'll have you arrested for trespassing because I have kind of like trespassed you.
Right,
but I think it has to come down with like the owner, and that's where it gets kind of weird.
I mean, as I understand it,
of like the owner of the property itself.
No, because if inside the lease, if you're leasing a business and so you don't own the building, but you're leasing it.
Right.
The right of,
you're the pseudo owner of that time.
The right of access goes to the lessee.
Right.
And so if the lessee says that somebody's not allowed to be there, then they're not allowed to be there. They're therefore trespassing. It's that's an old bar rule. One of those things that you just know if you've been in the bar game for a while.
Yeah.
Anybody in the bar starts acting a fool and they're like, "Oh, I'm not leaving." Well, I'm asking you to leave politely. And if you do not leave, you are considered trespassing, and we'll call the police to come take you out of here.
Exactly.
And they're like, "Well, I didn't do anything wrong." It's like, it doesn't matter if you did anything wrong. At this point, I said you need to leave, and I have the authority over this establishment to allow people to come and go. And you're not allowed in here.
You're not welcome here.
Right. And my understanding of it, that it therefore becomes trespassing. Now, if the police want to grab you and arrest you, or if they just want to get you out, I don't care. I would prefer they just get you out. I'd prefer you just leave. But all I want at that point is I want you gone. Now, if you continue to stay there and cause damages, then I want you arrested. But if you just sit there until the cops show up and the cops chase you off, so be it. You're gone. I don't care anymore. Yeah. I'm not. I don't want anybody to go to jail. I just don't want somebody to stay if I want them to leave. And so anyway, back to the point being, I don't know. Like, I get the premise of it's kind of your responsibility as the business to protect your property and your stuff from people that, from people who are trespassing in this sense, in that, yes, they're hassling your employees.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to you to tell them to stop hassling your employees. It's not the police's job because technically they're not breaking a law. If they're on the sidewalk and yelling at one of your employees in the parking lot to give them $1, there's nothing illegal going on there. So what are the police supposed to do in that situation?
Right.
On the flip side, if there was just a known police presence regularly,
that could be raised to the level of harassment, depending on the severity of the asking. To
me, it's like, hey, we've got a situation, and we would appreciate it if there was a kind of general police presence, not like all the time, not like 50 cops or anything, but a regular occurrence of officers being around, so that people know that officers are around, both my employees or my customers. They understand that there are police nearby most of the time.
Yeah.
As well as the persons whom we are trying to protect our employees and or customers from. They understand that the police are around, and they're less likely to engage in the things that we're going to tell them to stop doing if they know the police are nearby often.
Have you tried sending them some donuts?
Well, I've got a meeting with Noel coming here in a couple weeks.
Do you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Noel and Chief Captain, which is another funny part. One of Noel's things that he did is he redistricted the city, and so he has these little sub-districts of the KPD.
Yeah.
And we are in the Eastern District, although we are northwest of the majority of the Central District. The Central District's like downtown proper, just past 40, and that's where it caps off. And then above there, and I don't know, I guess west of 275 is the Western District, east of 275 is the Eastern District. So we're in that Eastern District, north of Central. It's weird.
Yeah.
And so I'm meeting that captain and Chief Noel here in a couple weeks to not do a podcast. Although that was kind of funny. Did I tell you about that?
I don't believe so.
So as part of what I'm trying to do for Central and the Happy Holler business group that we're working on and all that kind of stuff, I've been playing my dorky politics because I enjoy this kind of crap. So I had Lauren Ryder out and the city neighborhoods director, and I've gone to some of these different neighborhood meetings of our neighbors that are nearby. I had a meeting with the fish pantry yesterday, and I had a meeting with Axel Logistics the day before that. Just trying to get, a little bit of Happy Holler community understanding together, everybody getting on the same page of what we're trying to do. Everybody has the same, more or less some of the same issues. And so it's like, hey, Chief, hey, Mayor, these are issues that we are having, and it's not just me complaining, it's me and all of my neighbors, and then my neighborhood groups around me, and then my next business group that's just over the hill here. Can you please address these issues? And so, anyway, so I made a form letter basically where I wrote up like what I was doing, who I am, what I'm doing, and sent it to all the city councilors, mayor's office, Mayor Jacobs' office, police department, and so on. It's just a big, long laundry list. And so I'm going back and forth with somebody. I'm not exactly sure who I was going back and forth with at KPD. I think Lauren Ryder gave me the email. And so in my little form letter, my introduction to myself is, I'm a dude that I'm a man of many hats. I produce the Compass podcast. I host this podcast. I own this business. I own that business. I operate this. I do these things. I got kids in schools, just kind of the self-introduction thing. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm just talking about this business group that we're working on, blah, 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 blah. I'd really like to meet with Chief Noel to talk about how we can work together to make this neighborhood a better, safer, cooler place to hang out and be a good positive attribute to the city, kind of, whatever. And so whomever emails me back is like, so are you asking the chief to be on your podcast, or... And I was like, yes, but not right now. This is just for the neighborhood group thing. I just want to meet him and talk about this stuff. The podcast is a different animal.
Yeah.
Plus, I want to save my podcast persona for... I think for the sake of my goals there, maybe my podcast persona should come second to my professional persona. Yeah. Not really. Like I've never been particularly adversarial with any of the guests that anybody left the show feeling like I was an asshole or anything like that to him. Except for maybe Matt, but Matt doesn't count. I was trying to get Matt together. I think Matt was coming tonight until this morning.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was going to ask him, what is it about old people that Mayor Kincannon is appealing to? How he feels about the insights of the election. I need to holler at Randy Pace too. I haven't talked to that guy in a while. His lamp might lose space. I think I might put the switchboard right there and put the mic stands off the switchboard.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not very pretty.
I love it. I love that lamp.
Really?
It's busted. It doesn't even work anymore. I love it. It's so ugly. It's like a pug. It is a pug.
Yeah, pugs got more attributes.
There's nothing pretty about a pug, but they're adorable. What else is going on, man? Football season's upon us.
Don't give a fuck.
I do feel like, for the record, I need to put out a couple of quick things. I think Vegas has the over/under on UT wins this year at 9. I took the over on that. I think we'll get more than 9 wins. I think Tennessee has a shot. I think Georgia's still the team to beat in the SEC, hands down. I think Georgia is the best team in the country, probably.
Think Bama's fallen off their high horse?
I think Bama's still a question mark. I think depending on how Milton starts the season out, if Milton actually has corrected some of his issues, which Peyton said he was really impressed with.
I think I heard they had like a younger quarterback or something that was coming in. That was one of their issues. They didn't have like a really good quarterback.
For Tennessee or Alabama?
Alabama.
Oh, yeah. C.J. Stroud I think it was C.J. Stroud, or was that the Ohio State guy? Anyway, yeah, whoever their guy was last year got drafted and he's gone. I think Alabama is about where they were last year, maybe a little bit less. I think we barely snuck by him last year in a very. It could have gone. I mean, it was a coin flip game, and
We beat him last year?
yeah, we beat him last year. That was the end of regulation field goal to win. Stormed off, took the goalpost down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was beating Bama.
yeah. And so, but I think Georgia owns the East, and I think Tennessee has a shot at beating Georgia. I don't think it's a gimme. I think the question for Tennessee fans is this Milton character can control the cannon. Dude's got an arm for days. He could throw it like 75 yards without even moving his feet. His problem is he throws it like 65 yards when he's trying to throw it 20. And he just overthrows people all day. But there was some Peyton, Professor Peyton. He's a professor at UT now.
I heard he came back.
He had done I guess he does a camp every year here for quarterbacks from around the country that'll come here and do a quarterback camp with Peyton. And so Milton did the camp with him, and Peyton said something in post. It's like he's really gotten control of what he's doing. And so he's not just a rocket arm anymore. He's got some control. So that's the question of UT to me. I think UT's gonna have an explosive offense again this year. It's gonna be 40, 50, 60-point games all day, every day. The question is whether or not we could put 55 up and keep Alabama from putting 65 up, or Georgia from putting 65 up. I don't think it's a question of it's a question of how many points we're giving up for the millions that we're putting up. But anyway, I think we're a 10-win team this year. I think if we lose 3, it'd be Georgia, Alabama, LSU. I don't even know if we have LSU this year. I got to double check that. That's what I'm saying. But I think the only games that I would look at on the calendar right now and say are a loss is Georgia. And I think there's 2 or 3 games that are like could go either ways. And so I just need to pull one of those to push my over 9. And I'm good. My Packers are going to be mediocre this year. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll win the NFC North. But that's because the NFC North is super weak right now.
Yeah, what was the thing AC sent about? Was that like a preseason game that there was like some shit talking and then...
Oh, that guy's not even a Packer anymore. I don't care about him.
Okay, never mind.
No, Aaron Rodgers and some defensive end from the Giants, I think. It was a preseason game. And this defensive end from the Giants or whatever kind of gave him a little poke a little late after a play. And Rodgers like, you better show some respect. He's like, I don't give a fuck, man. I'll hit you when I need to hit you, blah, blah, blah. And Rodgers like, I don't even know who you are. And that was like the ultimate like cut down or whatever. And then on like the very next drive, or maybe very next play, very shortly thereafter, Rodgers throws a touchdown pass. And on the way off the field, like run as he's jogging off the field, finds the guy. Says, "Don't poke the bear," and then jogs off the field. And then there's a clip of him on the sideline saying, "I gave him the thing you can't ever say. There's nothing you can say back to it. I don't know who you are. There's nothing you can say back to that. I gave him the ultimate cut down." Like he's joking about how good his cut down was.
Right. I've heard some of those where what do they call it, chirping or whatever in like the NHL. Watch some of those videos where a lot of like the standard pros are like saying to some like the young guys like, "You're gonna be back down in the minors tomorrow, man." Like, I don't know who the hell you are. Like, who are you again? Like, yeah, that's cool. You'll be back in the minors. Like, don't worry about it. You're not going to stay in the big show.
The way to prep that is to make some sort of "you've been around so long" joke in return. You just got to have it cocked and ready to throw back at them. Like, my bad, man. You've been in the league for 35 years. Of course, you don't know everybody that's here. There's been 10,000 players since you started. Or like, let me get you some oatmeal, old man. Or something like that. Labor Day weekend. Thank your local union, I guess.
I did read a story about that. I'm trying to remember where. I think it was like it started in like New York City before it expanded to like other states.
I'll tell you what.
Labor Day, and then I think it was like the early 1900s that they made Labor Day in September because they didn't want it to. Because there was also we more see it in Europe, but May Day as far as like May 1st, which usually ends up being a little bit much more chaotic. Not a little bit more. Very much more like chaotic.
What's May Day? I don't know May Day.
It's essentially an International Workers' Day.
Oh.
Kind of like Labor Day. But that was why I think it was like Wilson, or can't remember exactly what president it was, decided to make it September 1st or
Why doesn't
September whatever versus it being May, because that was a lot more connotation with like socialistic and like anarchist kind of ties.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, that makes sense. I don't know, like this UAW strike that's looming. Have you heard any more about that?
I think I heard a little bit about it.
One of their demands is the 4-day work week, and the history of the 40-hour work week was a compromise of FDR, the auto industry, and the union drive back then. Because they
believe so. I think Henry Ford had a lot more to do with the 5-day work week, which would have been pre-FDR. Maybe Teddy Roosevelt?
No, it should have been the thing I was talking about today was that FDR. It was that the compromise was the workers were asking for 30. The businesses wanted to keep it at like 50 or 60.
Or maybe Henry Ford was like
40.
one of the first like companies to go towards trying to push, or
Right.
actually doing their own.
Right, like we talked about a couple
work.
weeks ago. Like one of Ford's things was we need a well-paid middle class for me to have somebody to sell my fucking cars to.
Right.
And so part of that middle class is going to be my employees. And so I'm going to pay them enough that they can afford to buy the shit they're making. And he was a Nazi, but whatever.
Huh?
He was a Nazi sympathizer.
Ford was?
I believe so. Or he's an anti-Semite. Maybe I'm mixing up the two. I mean, they're pretty close.
There's a difference.
I mean, there is a difference. But there is like one uniquely unifying factor is they both hate Jews. He was one or the other.
Yeah.
Neither one's good, okay? Sorry.
Okay.
I conflated that. I
conflated
conflated two different groups that hate Jews.
He was already like pretty old in like the 20s. Like I'm not sure if he lived long enough to know what the fucking Nazi was.
Nazi. Yeah, you might be right. I might have conflated the two. I apologize. One or the other. Doesn't matter. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Because I guess the point is, why it's interesting to watch is that the auto industry back then, in shifting to the 5-day work week and the 40-hour overtime thing, became an industry standard as much as it was a labor law thing. Maybe that's what it was. That's what you're right. I screwed that story up. It was that Ford implemented the 5-day work week, and then later down the road, the 40-hour overtime rule went into effect. But the 5-day work week, when Ford put that in, it then became a standard because all the other businesses needed to do it to attract employees. And so if the United Auto Workers gets this 32-hour 4-day work week thing to be part of their spiel, it will likely trickle down to be a standard amongst a lot of industries.
Yeah, that's exactly what it applied to. I thought I saw the current administration had just expanded some of the overtime hours, I guess, to other industries. I think we kind of talked about it before. I think one of like the farm workers are one of the few that are exempt from overtime pay.
Well, but except for what you were telling the story about Oregon or whatever, that Oregon put a law into place, and then the guy just hired more people and didn't, and
right,
and all the workers were pissed because they wanted the 60-hour work week,
right,
because they needed that money. And you go, like, I'm a fan of the 4-day work week. I'm a little bit troubled by the terminology. Like, I don't like the idea. I push back on the idea, I guess. I'm not going to say I like or don't like. I kind of gut reaction push back on the idea. It's like, they're going to pay me the same, but I'm going to work one less day. Because that's the demands that the UAW's putting up. Now, the salaries doesn't change.
Are you increasing hours for those 4 days?
No, it's a 32-hour 4-day work week is what they're demanding.
Huh.
So it's 4 8-hour days instead of 5. Not 4 10-hour days, but you have to pay me the
Still
same.
want the same hourly? Or they want the same, I guess they're on
Same
still on salary? Okay.
Right. So the total compensation doesn't change
Right.
with one less day. Although, there have been some studies. And
That's what I was going to say. I've heard
there was a
some
program
studies.
in Europe or something like that. I can't remember where that tried it. That like the government aided the process, like gave the businesses some bonuses to try it.
Yeah.
And like 70% of them said, we don't even care about the bonus anymore. You don't need to keep giving us the bonus.
Yeah.
Or, well, you're taking the bonus away, but we're going to keep doing it because it's been a net positive for us
Right.
overall.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the workload, I mean, there's a good number of, Monday through Friday jobs that you're just kind of like half-assing it through 5 days.
Yeah. I the problem I have with it is that it's such a there's such a diverse set of work.
Right.
That for some things, sure, fine, whatever, it makes total sense.
Right.
But for other things it doesn't. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like I mean a off the cuff example I would think of is like a gas station clerk. Some dude working at a gas station. I don't know how you could functionally continue to operate a gas station paying somebody the equivalent of 40 hours for 32, which, I mean, just realistically, you're just adding somebody or two people to the fray.
Who working at a gas station is on salary?
Well, I mean, it doesn't change the premise, but you're right. You're right. If it's an hourly job, I guess it doesn't technically work that way. But if the standard becomes 32 and the government comes behind it with a labor law that says the overtime starts at 32, that's a problem for hourly workers, I would think.
Right, but I think the 40-hour thing is a federal thing. Like they would
well,
have
that's
to,
what I'm saying. If the federal law comes behind it
law.
and changes the federal, like I think if federal law catches up, it says, okay, well, the 32-hour work week is the new standard. Anything over 32 hours is now overtime. I think that's going to hurt a lot of hourly wage workers because most employers aren't going to pay overtime for that. They're just going to hire more people to work part-time to cover the same amount of hours, just not pay overtime. That would be my guess at it. But I mean, I even the 4 10-hour work week that I've been advocating, which it still cracks me up how awkward everybody was about it when I tried to pitch the idea.
Yeah.
And then we got rolling on it, and then people quit, and then we had to roll into 5 back. Like it was a pain in the ass. Like I really was hoping for it would work, but extenuating circumstances kind of made it implausible over time for us, and so we've rolled back into a normal 5 days.
It was beneficial, but at the same time, you are working longer hours in a single day.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does kind of make the day drag on a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, I did see a lot of things of the studies, and even in some of those same studies, kind of looking at the 4-day work week, where they interviewed, some Europeans and kind of asked them, comparable of what they kind of thought of like the American model, and they're like, can you guys not get your stuff done?
Right.
And how, like, I guess that was more in the thought of a lot of Americans, will come in early or stay late to try to get all this stuff done. Or I guess not so much as like the 4-day work week, but as far as like trying to have a work and home like balance. Right.
I mean, in the couple of salary jobs that I've had over time, to me, productivity is all that matters, and it depends on the job. Like some jobs, it doesn't matter how productive you are. I need you there for a period of time. But especially for production stuff, productivity to me should be the factor.
Right.
Okay, but if you're working on the auto line, if you can kick 100 cars out, then for every 100 cars you get paid X.
Right.
Or for every 100 waffles, I don't know. Waffles isn't a good example, but
I mean, I wouldn't say most, but in many instances, for some of those people that are able to have kind of like that work-life balance, they're happier to where when they come into work,
they're more productive.
They are more productive.
But that's what I'm saying, though. If the production is the pay, then you can be as productive as you want to.
Yeah.
If it's like, okay, just random sticking with the car example, it's like,
and then but that's where you also kind of get into
their salaries based off of 100 cars.
Right.
Your weekly pay is for producing 100 cars. Produce 100 cars in 2 days, then take the rest of the week off. I don't care. As long as they're produced correctly and they pass all their checkpoints and standards and all that kind of stuff.
That's what I was about to say. That's the only real worry is when you incentivize productivity, it can be helpful, but it can also be where they're like people were just trying to crank shit out as fast as they could.
I mean, I think the same, like in agriculture, would be the same thing. Like if I'm going to pay you to pick tomatoes in my tomato field, pounds of tomatoes.
That's the way most do.
It's like that just makes the most sense to me.
Yeah,
is that because at the end,
I'm not gonna pay you by the hour, and pay you by the actual work that you've done.
Right, because that's the actual labor is picking the tomatoes, and so for every tomato you pick, here's a nickel. Pick 1,000 Here's $50. Is that right, math? Yeah.
Sure. You didn't get the calculator out.
But I mean, just, do if you want to work more, you can make more. If you want to work less, you can make less. If you want to go home, go home. I don't care. Just pick as many. I'll pay you for how many you pick.
Yeah.
It could get a little dicey for ownership because then it's like, or for management rather.
Right. Pick a bunch of green tomatoes.
Everybody quit. Well, or everybody just wanted to go home early today because there's something going on tonight, and I got a bunch of tomatoes on the vine that aren't going to survive, and I'm going to lose a lot of product here. And then the inverse being the employees can get screwed if it's a bad harvest. If it's just like a bad season, some frost came in weird,
right,
and there's no tomatoes to be picked, can't make any money.
Yeah, I think in one of the stories I read that was talking about that, it might have been asparagus or some other like vegetable that, and I guess if they happen to have like some good rain and like good soil, perfect conditions, like it may need to be picked twice a day.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. I'm hit and miss on asparagus. Like, I like asparagus tips. I can't do the stalks. Like steak and asparagus tips, good to go. A lot of butter.
I didn't have Brussels sprouts till maybe like 8 or 9 years ago.
Oh, dude, we do them like French fries for burger night. I get farty the day after. It's a little problematic.
Yeah,
but
such little tiny cabbages.
Like, yeah. Well, what we like to do is like just like olive oil, salt, and butter, and put them on the grill. Get them all smoky and a little bit crispy with the burntness on it.
Yeah,
good. I did them in the air fryer this last time. Not quite as good, but still real good. Crispier, but a little al dente. Like the outside leaves were starting to get burnt.
Yeah.
At the inside was still like it was still like raw in the middle.
Right.
But I got a few. I used to like green beans when I was a kid. I don't like green beans anymore.
Still like green beans.
We have some in the fridge right now. We didn't cook this week. Oh, well. All right, you got news of the weird or something? We've been rolling through this.
Yeah.
If you're ready. You got something else on there? You've been on your phone the whole night. If you got something else you're looking at, we can do that.
Oh, I was trying to look for any more like local news. I thought I read like a couple like random stories that had come out.
I'm trying to think of the majors.
There's been a few, but
some high school football's going on.
We've had legal proceedings going on.
Trump's got a court date the day before Super Tuesday or the day after. It's kind of a funny one.
Something like that, yeah. I think that might be the Georgia one.
Oh, did you hear Biden said that he talked Strom Thurmond into voting for the Civil Rights Act?
No.
Yeah, he did. He said that he had convinced Strom Thurmond to vote for the Civil Rights Act, which Strom Thurmond voted against it at the time.
Right.
The consensus when the White House press secretary or whatever is asked about it, the explanation that they gave was that he just misspoke. He was referring to the reauthorization of it in the 80s. And then something else. I don't know. It was an interesting little kind of deep dive into the history of Biden's random kind of little lies he likes to tell.
Oh, lies he likes to tell.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like that he was like super, there's another one about the civil rights movement at large that he talks about, like he did a bunch in the civil rights movement, which at least on record, as anybody actually knows about, he did one sit-in.
Gotcha.
But
I did read that he was starting to take a different set of stairs into Air Force One.
Oh, yeah?
It's like a shorter set of stairs that goes into like the belly of the plane. It's less photogenic, it's not the tall stairs that go directly up to the side.
Yeah.
He's been using those that more often.
They could bring an escalator out there for him. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I like the idea that they don't use the little tunnel like everybody else does to get on the plane just seems kind of ridiculous to me. I'm sure it's some. I bet you it's some like security protocol.
Security, yeah. Because essentially, once you're there, you've essentially got to secure that whole, concourse. Essentially,
right? They wouldn't put them. I mean, I get it. I guess that for security's sake, they wouldn't put Air Force. They wouldn't even put Air Force One in the plane itself in a position where it can't take off like that.
Right. True.
And so it's always out on the corner somewhere.
That, yeah.
And so they're never going to put it up in a gate where it can't just go.
Right.
It's always got to be. All right, here we go.
Yep. He's in.
Yeah.
Full thrusters.
Buckle your seatbelts, bitches. Yeah. We're gone.
Hope you're sitting down.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. There's been a couple of them. There was a this is back in like the 70s when he was a young senator. He had said that he went. What did he say? It was something about whatever college he went to, he was on some sports or intercollegiate something or other, and nobody could find any record of it. And like someone like Walter Cronkite or something like put him on the spot. Like it was like a weird little interview at the side of like a Democratic National Convention or something like that, where whoever the journalist was putting him on the spot. It's like, you said this, nobody can find any record of that. It's been a long thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just a poke. I poked at both. The one's got a trial date on election cycle. The other one lies a lot. And they're politicians. That's what they do. I get it. I'm good with it.
Gotcha.
I'm not good with it. It's just it's the world we live in.
Well, a few people got convicted of I think it was the Proud Boys that got convicted today and yesterday.
Yeah, some guy got 10 years for breaking a window. Was the headline I saw.
Yeah.
Whatever Proud Boy that broke the window was sentenced to 10 years today.
Yeah. Did you see he like raised his fist in defiance because he was walking out of the courtroom and was like, Trump won! It was that guy that broke the window. He broke the window from a shield that he stole from a police officer.
Did he get convicted of stealing public property or just breaking it?
No. I think they didn't do... I think it was more like terrorism charges, basically, and some other like criminal charges. He apparently apologized in court to the police officers, but I wonder how heartfelt it was. If he's still going to walk out the room and still try to be a douchebag and be like, Trump won!
Well, I mean,
it's like, just walk. What the fuck? Just walk out.
I mean, he understands that it's not the cop's fault that he stole it from him, and so he apologizes for putting them out.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like a good excuse either, but...
No, not really. He apparently said he grabbed it to protect himself from the police countermeasures.
I mean, why are there police countermeasures, buddy?
We're just having fun. We just thought it was a tourist attraction. You know, why we're going to get a tour of the Capitol.
My buddy Trump told me
they were inviting us in. You know, we thought it was just all normal. We just wanted, it was the people's house. We thought we could just walk in freely. You know, even if we had to break our way in, we thought we was free to be in there.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's his mindset, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It doesn't.
To them, it does.
It does. People are crazy.
Yeah.
All right, give me some news.
You got 10 years.
10 years, motherfucker. Say hello to Baby Boy, Bubba and Jim.
Oh, shit.
Oh. You had it and lost it. Say your do.
We got Chicago news crew robbed at gunpoint while reporting on string of robberies.
That's not even fair. It's not even fair. Like, that can't be. Like, that's too. That is the definition of the on the nose that I reference all the time. Like, when something is so on the nose, like, it doesn't feel real.
Right.
Like, how is that possible?
No, shit like that happens.
Sure. But, like, come on.
I read some like weird story about there was a woman. It was in a foreign country, but I think she was like visiting there. But apparently they had this big like search crew, like looking for this woman, and she didn't find out until she joined the search crew. Until she found out, like, oh, they're looking for me.
How do you even find out about that there's a search for a missing person without knowing who the missing person they're searching for is?
I mean, eventually you start finding out some details.
No, I'm saying, like, hey, we're looking for a missing person. Want to help? Sure. Who are we looking for?
Right.
That would be like, I don't know. What else do you ask? Like, what else would you ask in this situation?
Right. And that's probably why they didn't find out immediately. They're like, oh, we're looking for a female, 30 to 40, brown hair, green eyes, whatever.
Cool, let's go to downtown Knoxville. There's one. There's one. Oh. Nice.
They're like, oh, wait, no, they're looking for me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's a news thing that's weird to me. Like, so they're standing out front of like a bodega or something that got robbed, talking about the string of robberies.
Says it's where? Oh, they're filming just before 5 a.m.
Yeah, like what are you doing?
Yeah. They were accosted at gunpoint by 3 armed men wearing ski masks. Spanish language station Univision Chicago said a reporter and photographer were filming just before 5 a.m. in Chicago's Westtown neighborhood when 3 masked men brandished firearms, robbed them, taking their television camera and other items. They were approached with guns and robbed. Mainly it was personal items, and they took a camera.
That's a tough one. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
You can't hawk that. How do you fence a fucking television camera?
Peeps. There's people.
I mean, I'd buy one. Hit me up, peeps.
All right. There's people hard up like, yeah, sure, I'll give you this much of drugs for this.
Yeah, but I mean, the guy that's buying
$200, like, all right, sure, $200.
Yeah,
but that guy that knows that thing is worth like 20 grand, right?
Jinx. So another hurricane in Florida hit the hinge.
You heard there's a new resurgence of looking for Nessie, Loch Ness Monster?
Like in earnest? Like non-ironically?
Yeah, I guess there's another push to start looking for it again.
I want to know what the deal is with the Sasquatch around here.
Hell, what?
Like down in Townsend and stuff, like there's like the little like...
I haven't heard about this.
Yeah, it's not, they're not looking for it, it's just like, it's like a logo. Like there's like a... Like what's the video?
It's not Zapruder.
Bob. I want to say like Bob Anderson or something generic. Anyway, that video,
yeah.
And like this, the kind of the walk,
yeah,
the very distinct walk or whatever. It's like a pose of that. That's just a silhouette, and it's like they have like these little, like stickers and up to like full size like cutouts of it for you to put as lawn art. But it's like a Townsend thing or like a Smoky Mountains thing.
Huh. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah.
I know weird. In was it like East Texas and like Mississippi, they basically have like a kind of like a swamp kind of like Bigfoot.
I think it's random, like it's a random
that apparently like smells like a skunk, and they call it like Skunk Man or something.
Nice. I'm a big fan of what's the Mexican one? The dog.
Yeah. Chupacabra.
Yeah, I like the Chupacabra. Like it's just a good name. Like it's all good. Everything about it's good.
El Chupacabra.
So the other thing to me in the cryptozoology department is a Yeti and a Sasquatch. Are they really just the same thing? Like it's like a polar bear and a brown bear?
Probably, essentially.
Like genetically speaking?
In the thought, yeah.
Like this is just a polar climate version or a high altitude climate version, and this is a lower altitude climate version?
Yeah, probably.
I feel like I feel like they could mate and make new ones.
Same urban legend, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Well, like it's the Australopithecus.
Australopithecus.
Yeah. Apparently, there was at one point in the history of time.
Yeah.
A giant ape that could theoretically have been
giant.
I mean, big, that big. I think most sightings are bears, personally. But anyway, back to Florida. So this hurricane and the insurance thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. That concerns me, like, long term. Because, like...
canceling policies?
Yeah, well, it's like just like, climate issues, whatever it is. We don't need to go into causal arguments over what the climate change reason is. But, I mean, we've had more... Maybe. But we've had more... we had a tornado in Knox County in the summer, which we've never had in the history of time.
Yeah.
There is more...
We're running into a lot of anomalies.
Right. But they seem... How long? Like it's the same thing as during the pandemics. How long is it when does a pandemic turn to an endemic? How often do anomalies need to start happening before it's just regular?
True.
Weather-wise, and this climate issues and all this kind of stuff. It's a problem, and when and especially when you put it together with the raising cost of housing, because I mean that's what an insurance policy is based on.
Yeah.
It's a percentage broken down into a gajillion payments into how much, so you pay us $20 a month for a millennium. At some point in that process, we can rebuild your house because you're going to pay us what it would cost us to rebuild your house in the same time. That's how insurance companies work. And so you take the more houses getting destroyed more often, whether it's wildfires in California, fires in Hawaii or Canada, or hurricanes in Florida and Texas and Mississippi and all that kind of stuff.
What fucking California?
Right.
I think it said it'd been like 40
Hillary,
years.
which made it funny, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have all this kind of you have to me. There's two huge factors running together into this. It's the fact that these things are happening more often, and the fact that the price of housing is getting so expensive makes it the business that is insurance provision harder. It's just harder to do.
Yeah,
you need a lot of people who don't have their houses getting destroyed to help pay off for the one or two that do.
True.
And I don't know. I've just started thinking about this, so I'm not sure where I'm really, really at. But as much as I pitch fits about bailouts of big companies, one that I might be okay with would be insurance companies. Like a federal insurance to insurance companies, that in the event that you get just overwhelmed by a bunch of claims at the same time, the federal government might back you up so that you can make sure that you can make your policyholders whole. That seems reasonable to me. So if you're Sam's Insurance Group and you have 1,000 clients in Florida, and for the most part, you're fine.
I think I would be okay with that if they'd open up their books, as far as okay, I see you guys, had a really rough year. Let's look at the past 10 years.
Absolutely. If you're going to dip into the taxpayer game,
right,
I think your books are automatically open no matter what you're doing. If you're going to ask for it, you have to open your books. I think that should be the
if you've been running close
step
for 10 years, but you've been running with crazy windfalls for the past 10 years, and now all of a sudden we had a crazy flood or whatever,
right?
And you're having to pay out a bunch of policies. Which I don't.
So, but still,
can an insurance company buy insurance?
Probably. Probably. I would. I mean, I think that there's. I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I bet you that exists all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's probably only 2 real insurance companies. It's just 50 little subsidiaries that buy and trade policy underneath them.
I can't think of too many in recent history, but I swear in the 90s there was a lot more Mississippi River floodings.
Right.
And that's where I first started hearing of a lot of flood insurance getting canceled all along the Mississippi basin, basically.
Yeah.
They were yeah, we're not doing flood policies anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
sorry.
Well,
you live within, 75 miles of the Mississippi River. We're not covering you anymore.
I think maybe, to do like I do and start a big topic right at the end of the show, I think maybe the concept of insurance is problematic, and we need to rethink how we're dealing with this kind of thing. The history of insurance?
Not really.
Where it came from?
Not really.
So it's post-Columbus is when the New World shit's going down, right? I'm sure that somebody knows the names of the people involved. But it was essentially a couple of rich dudes hanging out at the bar. One dude was financing some guy to do an expedition to the New World to go claim some land or whatever whatever the expedition was for. And so he was funding the expedition, but he wasn't part of it per se. So he was the producer of said expedition. And so he was gambling with his money on this captain and this crew and whatever they were going over there to do. Was going to go over there, do the thing, come back with more than it cost him to do it. It was an investment opportunity that he was doing. Basically, he was explaining this to his buddy sitting at the table across from him, drinking some beers or whatever. And his buddy says, I'll tell you what, you give me $1,000. And if they don't come back, I'll give you 20. That's the inception of insurance. And so that guy says, okay, well, I'm putting 10 grand up. Now I put an extra grand up, and I'll at least not lose any money. I'll make a little bit of profit off this. Maybe not profit off this thing. I don't remember maybe it was closer to, I'll give you 12 and you're going to put up $1,000 to me and you're going to put up 10 or 11 on the expedition. So you'll be close to break even. If it's a complete failure, you'll be a break even. But for the other guy on the other side of the table, he's like, if they succeed, I just get $1,000 and don't owe anything. And then he realizes if he does that with 15 of his friends and 14 succeed, he's going to make more than he gives out.
Yeah.
And so it was really just a random gamble, a couple of dudes randomly gambling.
I was about to associate it to essentially gambling.
Yeah, a couple of dudes randomly gambling on what was, for all intents and purposes, was a third party because it was the guy that was financing an expedition. He wasn't part of it; he was just financing it, and so it was a gamble between two other people on what the third party was going to do. It's like, I'll bet you $100 he doesn't make it back.
Yeah,
that's essentially what happened, and everything that we do in insurance now, and all the conversations in insurance now grew out of that bet, basically. And I don't know what the right answer is, but I think maybe two rich dudes gambling at the bar might not be the model we should base the majority of major life decisions on.
And I know I brought it before, and I hate to bring it up again because I don't know the specifics of it. But I swear there's a certain way of businesses that start up that ended up failing, that ended up are able to recoup some of their money, and they're like, well, hey, I tried this business venture and it didn't work out. And we're somehow able to recoup some of their funds that they put into trying to start a business.
I mean, it depends on.
That's where I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense to me at all.
I don't know.
It's like, yeah, we tried it, didn't work out. Can we
get
if
you
some
can get
money
up
back?
to an IPO where you're going public, as far as selling shares publicly,
right?
Because then your investors are
helping fund,
right, and you can fail and don't owe any money to anybody.
I want to say it had something to do with LLCs, but I could be wrong.
I'd like to know what that is because I'd like to start a new LLC under that program. And because so far the podcast and production business has been a complete failure.
Sweet.
Yeah, I get to write some things off and have a good time doing it, and it's not too. It's
or maybe that was part of it. They were write off some of the losses. Like I said, I feel bad for bringing it up because.
Well, look it up. Tell me.
I know. I can't remember where I saw it to really hear about it.
But I think, but to go back to the original point is that, I understand the premise. I understand the premise. If I'm a bank and I'm going to lend you money to buy a house, I want you to carry insurance on that house. I think that's a fair agreement.
Right.
I want you to be able to guarantee me that if something catastrophically terrible happens, that at least we can rebuild that house. And you can stay living there and continue to pay me the mortgage and everything's cool, or you can call it quits then. I can take that insurance payment and that at least makes me whole.
Right.
And then you do that in a large group that is the insurance game where you have a collective of people. The insurance company can make a little bit of money too. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think
some of the insurance makes sense to me.
I think the general premise.
The medical insurance is the one thing that I kind of push back a little bit more on that I don't see as far as insurance.
The general premise makes sense to me insofar as not medical, but the general premise makes sense to me is that you're investing a little bit into a fund,
right?
And so it's kind of like it's an unspoken agreement that I'm going to continue to put $100 over here every month,
right?
And my neighbor's going to do it, and his neighbor's going to do it, and his neighbor's going to do it.
Have a tornado,
and if something happens to one of us,
a car accident, I can get a little bit back.
If something happens to one of us, and our house gets destroyed, we can pull out of that and get our house rebuilt, and we all keep throwing the $100 in. So that no matter what, all of us as a group have something if something happens. But I don't know. I think maybe I'm kind of shifting a little bit to the side. I think the loan game is maybe the bigger problem. I think insurance is its own problem, but I think the loan game is too. I think the way the banking system works is its own problem that is adding to this one too. I think the way that we work, the way that banks work loans and the Fed and all that stuff, and the way mortgages work, just functionally, is its own problem and needs to get dealt with. I don't like the Fed, period, and that's a whole big deep dive. But I don't like the idea. I don't like when did we get off this idea that you and I put $100 in the bank and the bank loans that to somebody else? And you and I make a little bit back as they pay it back, and the bank makes a little bit back, and that's how we all make money. When did we go off that idea in banking? Because we don't do that anymore. Me and you don't make shit for saving money. And that's one of the problems I think we have as a nation. Is the policy has made it unadvantageous to save money.
You can with some banks, depending on how you set up your savings account. But that's more of, you get better rates if you promise that, hey, I'm not going to touch this for, or more than like once a year. I'm not going to take money out of this account more than like once a year.
When you get into CDs and other stuff like that, sure.
No, not even CDs. Like, I had it offered to me on essentially, I think it was like maybe at least like a 3-tiered like savings account.
Right. If you guarantee us you won't take any out.
Right. Within
which
like
basically
a year,
means we know we can give it to somebody else.
Right.
But for the most part, there's more of that's going on between banks, where banks are loaning to other banks, or banks are paying back other things that they owe money on to other banks, than it is your money is going to pay for somebody else's loan. Because most loans for most banks, especially FDIC banks, most loans are coming from the Fed directly. That bank is taking $1 million out of the Fed, giving you $300,000, giving your neighbor $300,000, giving your other neighbor $300,000. Giving your other neighbor $300,000 because they're allowed to loan more than they actually have too, which is a whole other subset of shit.
Well, I should ask my sister about this.
What's your sister do?
Actually, both my sisters work in a bank.
Work in a bank?
Yeah.
Maybe. That'd be interesting. Like, because, I don't know, because the idea that, like, I mean, now finally, because the Fed rates are so high, we're starting to actually get some returns on savings with banks. But when the Fed rates were zero, why would you give me $1 to hold on to my money? Okay, maybe this is another different way to look at it. Is what it comes down to is that policy is pushing consumerism because consumerism keeps the economy rolling. Maybe that's a better way to look at it. All right, last call. What do you got? What are you looking at?
That was a funny thing I read about just like funny facts.
Does it count as this one? Funny facts.
Oh yeah. You cut it off. In a lawsuit, where a company called SCO tried to sue IBM, I almost sent this to you earlier, for $5 billion over their alleged use of Unix code in Linux, an IBM lawyer was quoted as saying, "If you proceed with this horseshit, the sky over Utah will blacken with lawyers."
Then we will fight in the shade. Is that what the response was? Because it should have been.
That's literally the meme above it.
That's funny as fuck. Copyright law gets crazy.
British tanks are required to have a tea brewing station.
Okay. Is that what you want to leave it at that? That would be the last thing you say?
We can leave it at that.
All right. Tea for tankers. Almost an agreement. We like tea for tanks. Yeah, crazy week, crazy day. Again, our condolences to Cameron Brooks and anybody who is, I don't know, it's just a bummer for everybody. I didn't know him. It got me in a weird mood this morning because it's just like, I don't know. He was a character in my life, even though I never actually met him personally. So it's a bummer for the joy of arguing about elections and stuff like that. But more importantly than that, it's a bummer for the people who knew him. And my heart goes out to you guys, and I hope we can move on from this and remember him fondly. And I believe he said donate to Young Williams in his honor. That was what that's what the press release said. So if you want to donate to Young Williams on his behalf, that would be the way to honor his legacy. So shout out to Cameron Brooks and everybody involved with that. Podcast stuff, I don't know. I feel bad about following this. YouTube, Facebook, whatever. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll talk to you guys later. More election stuff.